Deep conversations with the right people are priceless, and ideas are formed in the crucible of authentic, connected, and sometimes controversial conversations. No ideas are off the table because why would they be? Join us on Inquisitive Souls as we lead with curiosity, empathy, and a massive heaping of juvenile humor. Join us on this learning journey. I thought I would title this one, Where Did My Little Girl Go? But maybe I will title that one, Where Did My Little Girl Go? So it's 5:30 in the morning on November 6th, and things have gotten fairly interesting here over the last few days. So, we have been suspicious, I would say, for a little bit, like just maybe a week or so, that some money had been going missing. And so anyways, turns out what happened was this is kind of a whole convoluted story, but I'll start with this part. So I was leaving to go to the mall. Everybody else was out, and one of our daughters was going to be left home alone. And I just had this feeling. So I went in, and in Tanya's drawer there was $5, and I just had this feeling. So I went and I checked, and it was there. And then when I came back, when I went to the mall, then she said, I don't want to name, there's only two daughters. It's not probably too hard to figure this out. But when I was gone, sorry, I'm getting distracted. When I was gone, she texted me and said she was going over to a friend's house. So I said, okay. And when I came back, she was gone. And the first thing I did was check the drawer, and the money was gone. And I lost my shit. I mean, I never freak out ever. Like, I can't even remember. It's been years. And I called her, and I told her to sit her ass the fuck down wherever she was. And I went and picked her up, and I freaked on her. And she was, she was denying it to high heaven. So, and she won't admit it. So what came out of that conversation, after I basically blew my stack, which caused her to write a letter to say she was running away, and, all the regular stuff, like the most poorly thought out running away plan is an almost 15-year-old is capable of coming up with, I guess. But we ended up talking, and of course she doesn't want to live here anymore. It's basically what it boils down to. And she's moving out when she's 16, and she's been saying that for a little while, actually. And, but when we were talking, she was talking about how different she is, and me and mommy are all spiritual. She thinks everything that we say, I shouldn't laugh, but I mean, she thinks everything that we say that is remotely nuanced, I would say, or she thinks everything we say is spiritual to boil that down. And then she looks at her sister, and who reads all the time, and so she's not like her, and so we're not sure what to do here. So she wants a break from our house. So we said, you know what? You can have a break. The situation with you taking the money will still be here when you get back. And she is denying it to high heaven. But you know what? She's not a bad person. I would have done the exact same thing when I was a teenager. I can remember being caught vividly actually doing that, being caught shoplifting, and just denying it till the fucking cows came home, and probably not admitting it till I was like in my 20s. And I recognize why. Like, it's easy to say, it's a measure of your character to admit it. I mean, obviously it is, but I mean, for a teenager, I'm not trying to let her off the hook here at all, but for a teenager, I mean, I can empathize with what's going through her mind. I did something bad. I got fucking caught, and she thinks that I think. She said, she thought I hated her. And so what would that mean if she admitted it? Like, as bad as things were, they could only possibly be worse in her mind if she admitted it. So I'm not excusing it. I'm really disappointed and upset. But all I'm saying is I can understand why she wouldn't admit it. But regardless, what's come out of all that is, so she's now she wants a break from our family. So she's gone to her friends to stay at her friends for a few days. She might stay for a week. I'm not sure exactly yet. She just last night was the first night she was away, and because she truly believes that like she doesn't fit in here. And it's what's amazing about the teenage mind, that it's obviously not fully formed, and you want to give them, they're becoming increasingly sovereign human beings, and you want to give them more freedom, but then they do stupid shit, right? And they say stupid shit and they think stupid shit that is so obviously not clearly thought out in any way that, it's always a balancing act. So, but what's interesting too is part of the conflict. A part of what's been going on is I would say a tension that's building between her and Tanya. And part of it is their personalities, and part of it is definitely related to Cindy's death and Chloe's idealized memories of what that time was like. Because she only knew her till, she was just past 6 years old when Cindy took her own life. And so what does she hold on to? Right? She holds on to these memories and then invents her own. Like we all do this, whether they're good or bad, or we tell ourselves these stories over and over again, and the stories become distorted and over time. And so in her mind, she's, her mom who died is this angel who did everything right, and everything was perfect in our lives when she was alive. And then she died. And then Tanya came in and everything's different now. This is kind of what she was telling me, not quite this articulately. And, I said to her, I'll talk about this with you right now because it's very important, but don't for a second think we're getting sidetracked from the point, from the fact that you stole money. And I said, it's a challenge, right? This is me talking to you now, not to her, but it's a challenge because I'm not going to bash her dead mother, and I'm not sure how much at this age to point out about who she was and some of the things that happened and what life was really like and all those things. But I just said to her, you've created a story in your mind, and those stories are very powerful. They're related to the images we create and the feelings we have. And but you need to remember that you don't really remember. Like you remember certain things, and I know how important it is to hold on to for you to hold on to those things, but there was so much you didn't see, And so this is a normal thing to do when you lose someone that you love. And then what can happen is, like you said, you have somebody new come in and everything's different. So, but what she does is, and I think this is a real teenager thing because teenagers aren't really capable, or most teenagers, I certainly wasn't. They're not capable of seeing nuance. They're not, black or shades of gray. They catastrophize. They, everything is you always, you never, blah, blah, blah. And like when something is bad now, it's always been bad. And so that's how she thinks. Like the last 7 years that we've lived in this house have been nonstop misery and blah, blah. Give me a break. I don't even know what to say to that. We've had so many good times. And I was saying to Tanya last night, think of how many times we've just been we've been so happy about how remarkably awesome our family is, like for years and years and years. So yeah, we're entering a different time now. And what I struggle with, I think, is trying to understand how much freedom to give her. And like now, the trust has been eroded, right? And what does that mean? Like, what actually does that mean? And what do we do about that? I really have no idea. And then in the relationship with Tanya, like, what does that look like? Like, Tanya is the stepmother. She's also very different. She's very German. And, I don't want to say she's very different from Cindy. She's very different from the Cindy who was alive, but we all change. So it's impossible to say who Cindy would have become. I'm vastly different than I was at that time, So, but they can have some personality conflicts and butt heads. And I don't know how much of that has to do at all. Like some of it has to do with the whole history. Some of it has to do with being a teenager and her mom butting heads. I'm much more chill, typically than Tanya, like all the time than Tanya is. And so, Tanya gets, she really can tell herself these stories about, being the quote stepmom, even though she's the only mom. Um, but it's impossible to know how much of that is related to that. Some probably is, some probably isn't. Like maybe I certainly was my parents' biological child, and we fucking butted heads way worse than this, and so, yeah, it's really interesting. And then, what's the impact on our other daughter? Like she's seeing all this going on, and I don't know, it's a really challenging time, and we're not really sure how to handle it. Like I tend to be of the mind where at this age, I would give her more freedom. I mean, the trust issue aside, the stealing issue aside, I'm not really sure what to do with that right now. But before that, I mean, I wanted to give her some more freedom. I really would think about it in terms of setting some, foundational requirements, like, getting certain marks in school, attending school, like doing the shit you need to do around the house, in a way that's up to the standard that we expect. Eating some family dinners with us during the week. Like we don't expect you to sit down every week, every night, but we have a set schedule of family dinners that we adhere to. And other than that, giving her more freedom, but we don't have total agreement about that. And it changes, right? We've given her more freedom this year. But yeah, that's kind of the story. So it's been very stressful. Like, I mean, I was so upset when that happened. I freaked out. Like I was yelling like big time, and I never do that. It was and then I don't think I felt bad about it. I felt bad about the whole situation in the first place. Like one of the things that I've always thought about is that there will be times when I lose my temper, but I want them to be as few and far between as possible, because number one, I'm just a chill person, and number two, I want it to like if that happens, I want it to mean something. So I could have handled that. Like, it wasn't that I like lost control of myself. It was that I made a conscious choice about how I was going to react to it, and then didn't try to modulate my emotions. You know what I mean? So, and it had a huge impact, and I don't know if it was worth it or not. It probably wasn't very effective, because what it ended up doing was probably making her think that I hate her guts, even though I told her a number of times I will always love her. So yeah, so she's at a friend's house right now. I'm assuming she'll be there till the end of the week. And we'll see what happens. We'll still deal with the theft thing when she gets back, and I don't know how to deal with that. So I don't want to make too big a deal of it. I don't want to make not a big deal enough of it. Like I stole money from my parents. I shoplifted. For me, it was just because I wanted money. For Chloe, I don't know. I don't actually think she'd steal money from me. I don't know how much of it. I could be wrong about that. I mean, obviously she stole it from us, but I mean, she stole it from Tanya's office. And is some of it because it's more accessible? It was more accessible there. Some of it getting back at her for whatever perceived slight. I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to any of those questions, but it's a journey, man. But I got to tell you, I've been pretty stressed out the past few days, because it's mostly not knowing how to handle this, and not knowing how to handle the relationship between the two of them. And I've always, up until this point, thought, maybe I was wrong, but thought I knew how to handle most situations pretty well. But not this one. So thankfully I have some resources available to me, like some of the communities I'm a member of, and I'll lean into the guys and talk about it. Get some advice and some insights from some guys I trust, and I'm sure that'll help. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. So the title of this podcast and of this chapter of my life is "Where Did My Little Girl Go?" So we will see you next time. And if anybody has gone through this, I think most parents have gone through some version of this. God, the stories are endless. But yeah, that's where we're at. So we'll see you next time. And thank you for listening to the Inquisitive Souls podcast, where we lead with curiosity and empathy, and we try to stimulate amazing connecting and transformative conversations. And if you want to find out more, please look up the Inquisitive Souls page on Facebook, or send me a message on Facebook, and I'll always respond to you. We'd love your feedback on how to make the show better and to learn how to help you have better conversations. Until next time, my friends.